Hello, guys, and welcome to our interview with Scarra, the new coach of Team Dignitas. How's it going, Scarra?
It's going pretty well.
My name is Robert Roscoe Thorncage Weary. Let's get to it. So, when the replacement announcement was made back on the 25th, that you're going to be replaced by goldenglue, there was an outpouring of support and well wishes. What was that like for you?
It was really like kind of surreal. I don't like using that word because I feel like surreal is like just a word you go like a buzzword, but like it was kind of surreal. Like I was surprised at all the help. Like I hit number one of Reddit all. Like it was just more than I expected. Like I expected something like kind of big, but I didn't really expect like that kind of generosity from like my fans and a lot of other people, a lot of other pro players.
And how do you feel about your replacement?
I feel like he's accommodating pretty well. Like at least team synergy wise, he seems to be doing really well. We have some kinks to work out though. Like I feel like there's still a lot of stuff in his play that could be improved, but generally I feel pretty confident that he's doing really well, or he's going to do really well.
And how do you feel about you being replaced?
Honestly, it sucks. Like I would want to be a player. Like if someone were to ask me like if I still wanted to be a player, I wouldn't be able to lie to them. I would maybe lie to them and say I wouldn't, but in reality, like playing is and was my passion, and now I just feel like that door is closed right now. Like I feel like there's no way I'll ever go back to becoming a player for any team.
In terms of coaching, what have you been able to do so far with the team?
Generally, it's just helping them make better decisions is like the biggest thing. Like I want them to be able to keep up momentum and then find out ways to get back into the game. And it's really hard from a like on the fly to be able to make those kind of decisions. So replay analysis is really big and being able to just like we we tend to fall into this trap of and a lot of lesser teams tend to fall into this trap of not doing something. Like if you're ahead, if you're behind, there's periods of lull where it's really boring and the viewers can pick up on that. And although it's not very clear why, maybe for them, for me it's like we should have done something here. And for all the pro players know that something should have been done, but that something is a little bit hard to find. And that's why I'm here. Like I'm here to identify that something and then make it into something that like we capitalize on or we do so that there aren't lulls in the game. So that we can keep cleanly pushing a lead or cleanly like recovering a game.
And of course, you can't really be in the headsets of the players during the games, but when you're practicing, are you in the same comms as them?
Yeah, I'm in the same comms. I literally don't do anything different than when I was a player. I wake up, I solo queue, I go to sleep, or I do like all the scrims. I'm in the comms. I spectate all the games. After every single game, I review with them potentially what they should have done or what they could have done. I think suggestions are much better than like being like you should have done this, unless it was just really obvious. Um, and they incorporate my suggestions into their play. Uh, and then we continue on with the day. And then at the end of the scrims, I wind down with more solo queue. Like my generally nothing's changed in terms of my schedule. Then that's the funny thing. It's like switching from coach. A lot of people would think I have more free time, but really like I do the exact same thing as before. Like for some real weird reason, I keep up a very similar practice schedule to when I was a player, and I find that it honestly is more in like it's enjoyable for me to do that or like at least for now maybe I'm in kind of a limbo that I'm not sure what I should be doing with my time. So in the off time I just end up reverting back to what I did as a player, which was doing a lot of solo queue.
Do you think you'll stream a little bit more now that you have time? I mean,
Yeah,
have time.
definitely. And then it's shown like a little bit like I'll stream in like small like 2 hour bursts windows when I can. Whereas before I didn't really like to stream because like after a loss it was really brutal to stream like especially as a player because you just don't want to answer the questions. Like you don't want to meet with fans that have watched you lose and then have to tell them you lost or have them ask you like why did you lose or like why was that game so bad. Like a lot of times that's a lot of the reasons why people pro players don't stream after games, because after a loss and especially after they did really poorly, it's just not worth the questions. I feel like a lot of people and a lot of pro players are influenced by a large part by the community as well as their peers, and it just isn't worth it to take that kind of I'm not gonna say punishment, but take that kind of critique, especially after you play. Like it's much better to just go around with a clear day. Where as a coach, I'm more off put from the team when it comes to wins and losses. Like it's a lot more analytical for me. It's like okay, we lost because of this. Like once we're at the studio, I do nothing. My job at the studio is literally to just sit there and like look at the game and then maybe like interact with some fans. But generally, I don't do anything at the studio. And so once you accept that as a coach, there's nothing you can do at that point. I feel pretty like a lot less stressed about the win or loss than I did before as a pro player.
Was there anything that you've learned being a part of the team that you can take over to coach them?
I feel like coaching, honestly, half of it's more like people reading, and that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't think I'd be as effective of a coach on other teams, but because I can read people, read the team really, really well on this team, I know what suggestions would work and how to like phrase the suggestions to make them work easier, and still be able to keep people like focused or motivated. Like, I know what they need to be able to become a better player or become just like a more dedicated player. And maybe for another team, like I wouldn't be able to be like, TSM really needs this, and this, like, because I wouldn't know, not until unless I've lived with them or stayed with them for a while. But with Dignitas, I've been with this team for like 3 years. And I've been with a lot of the players for a long period of time, so I know how the arguments work out. I know how they think, and because of that, that lets me become a better coach. Just because I can read them easier.
And earlier you mentioned a little bit about Golden Glue, but can you go a little bit in particular about his capabilities in mid after seeing him, I think, come to
Uh,
3 days of practice?
I think he's generally a he just needs like someone to to give him answers to like the questions that he has. Like I don't think he's really ever had a person that he just talks to about mid lane and like what he should build, what he should do, and like especially during the early phases of the game. I feel like that's probably like his biggest weakness is like his early game and then maybe like his late game decision making. I feel like that late game decision making is something that everyone can improve on. But the early game is something that I used to be like I used to be a very lane centric player. So it's very easy for me to be like this is how the lane plays out. Like straight up level 1 to level 5, assuming no jungler. This is the lane plays out this way. You should buy this, and this is where you should look for openings. Like that's very easy for me to tell him and very easy for me to teach him. So I feel like actually where he's maybe weakest in is the point where I can help him the most. And so I think that's very fortunate for me. And in mid game decision making, mid game team fights, he's actually pretty impressive. And he's just a more aggro player than I used to be, which is really beneficial for the team in general.
And you said you don't have any plans beyond Spring Split besides being a coach. And although you might not know what you want to do, if you had any option available to you, what would you do?
I would. I don't know. I seriously don't know. Like if Riot were to come to me and be like, "We want you to be a caster, but if you don't want to be a caster, we would want you to be champion design. But if you don't want to be a champion design, you can be live balance." I still don't know which of those three I'd be more passionate about. I don't know if I'd like to be a full time streamer. The only thing I've realized is that I don't want to be. I don't want to go back to school to finish my econ major. I feel like that part of my life is over. Just like playing professionally is pretty much done. I feel like both of those options are closed to me now, and it's just right now I'm in a state where I'm kind of just evaluating my options. I'm not even sure which options I would have. So I'm gonna give it like a couple weeks, end the spring split, and we'll see what pops up. Even with all like these hypothetical options available to me, I still wouldn't be able to clearly say like I would prefer this because I just don't know.
So a while ago, you posted a picture about you voice acting. Can you speak at all about that?
That was something more along the lines of a sponsor thing that is doing that. I can't really clarify that. It wasn't necessarily voice acting like a champion or like any like anything related to Riot Games. Of course, that would be something that would be very, very cool, very nice to do. But that's something that I literally haven't even thought of. Like that's a lot of hard work, and I don't know if I'll be necessarily any good at that at all. And I don't even know if I'd be passionate. I mean, I'd be passionate about that, but I don't know if I'd be any good. Like I respect people who like do voiceovers and voice acting a lot more after I've done like just a little bit, like a page and a half of stuff. It was like a struggle for me to like repeat the same word or the same phrase like 10 times in a row, 20 times in a row until they thought it was good.
There have been some speculation about that, about you being involved in the Gragas rework and possibly putting some kind of voiceover into that.
I love to say that was me, but no, I would never approach a pro player to do that because it's just not beneficial for them. Because let's say the pro player does something bad or the pro player like eventually drops out of this thing or any of that. I think skins are fine, but any voiceovers are a completely different animal. It's why they rarely have any people uh, talk on PR. Like they have to take PR courses to be able to work on social media, and even then they have no one in the camera. Like because they realize the position of power that they give someone when they put them in front of a camera. Someone like Nikasaur, someone like Freak, Rivington, those kind of people are in a position of a lot of power. And when you give certain people that kind of power, it's very hard to take it away once you've given it to them. So I think there'd be no way. Although I would like to voice act a champion, that I would ever be contracted to do that.
Okay. And we've got the All Stars coming up in May, and you've been tweeting a lot that you want Shifter to go. Who else are you all voting for?
I like to think that I value certain types of players more than others, but I guess that'd be a lie. I just like certain people. So I think I've been really close to Shifter this past split. And I think he's performed really well for his team, and probably one of the main reasons why his team is winning is because he performs and carries way more than he should, due to his role, or just as a player. Like he typically takes a burden of two players or even three players sometimes, and I feel like that's very admirable to be able to take your team to where they are because of how well that you play. Like you can't really say a lot of other people single handedly carry their team. And so I feel like he, above all people, deserves like an all-star spot. And then maybe my other things might be I think Afro honestly improved a ton. Like if I was going to give like the best support, it'd probably be special in terms of mechanics, but in terms of like shot calling, I feel like Afro has single-handedly made CLG like a really big threat just because I know how much he communicates with his team. And that's something that not a lot of people may realize the importance of, but he could single-handedly make it so that the other players on the team don't need decision making to an extent because of how good or how well you can shot call from that position. And then outside of Afro move, I'm not quite sure who else I would put. Really, I mean, I think Heaty Pie would be funny. I think Heaty Pie would actually be insanely funny to send. But I don't really have anyone else on the top of my head. I think those two are pretty good picks, and probably who I would vote for top two.
And so, do you know the famous subreddit, Scarra picks?
Yep, of
What
course.
do you think is going to happen to that without regular footage and activity from you?
I'm hoping it doesn't die, but you know, I don't know what will happen. I think it might devolve into something that's just not used anymore, which would be pretty sad. But here's to hoping that something else comes up out of it.
And then last question, your team are have tomorrow big?
No, I'm not even gonna answer that.
All right, do you got any shoutouts?
Obviously, shout out to all of our sponsors, but I think this is a good time to really thank the fans for supporting me. I feel like I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the person I am without the fans, and I know a lot of pro players say that, and a lot of like sports people say that, but it's true. Like the amount of fame that I get, the amount of recognition that I get, is nothing without like the amount of people supporting me and backing me. And I really appreciate all the people who've sent me messages, even though I don't respond to like any of them or a lot of them because I just get a lot of messages. I know a lot of people have sent me really heartfelt messages saying that like, look, like you're the reason why I played the game, and you've really supported me through like hard times in my life, and it's really heartwarming to read that kind of stuff. I really hope that everything I've done in my career has helped someone somewhere improve their life to an extent.
Well, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and like the video, and thanks for the interview, Scar.
And no problem, Robert.